is it for? Walking alone, alone. What is it for? Walking alone. Must our paths ever be like the waves on the sea? Oh, walking alone. What is it for? Singing alone, alone. What is it for? Singing alone, singing alone. Must our songs ever be like the waves on the sea? Oh, singing alone. What is it for? Laughing alone, alone. What is it for? Laughing alone. Must our joys ever be like the winds on the sea? Oh, laughing alone. What is it for? Living alone, alone. What is it for? Living alone. Must our lives ever be like the winds on the sea? Oh, living alone. Oh, living alone.
I've been in many countries and mixed with many men.
I've shared their days of sunshine, gone with them in the rain.
The fires at evening said we were brothers. The fires at evening said we were brothers. A soldier I saw weeping beside a dying friend.
My officers had preached, I must hate him till the end.
But seeing his grief I knew we were brothers. But seeing his grief I knew we were brothers.
And sat on a doorstep to see the children play. The gentle way he smiled there would charm your fears away. A stranger he but love made us brothers. A stranger he but love made us brothers.
One day I climbed the mountain with friends of other lands.
The words we used were different, but joy one understands. Our gladness in God's world made us brothers. Our gladness in God's world made us brothers. The words and customs vary like waves upon the sea. One life beneath the surface finds everyone to meet. Who knows himself knows all men as brothers. Who knows himself knows all men as brothers. Then brothers, why endeavor to set ourselves apart? The fences we've been building squeeze tight upon our hearts. Come sing the truth that all men are brothers. Come sing the truth that all men are brothers.
I first had the idea of starting a community when I was 15. Actually, I think that the inspiration came to me from seeing Lost Horizon. And it seemed to me such an ideal way to live. And it just sort of lingered in my mind. And finally I decided I must start a community. We must have small communities all over the world. And this could be the first. And with the example of a few people, we can do so much more than precept and lectures and everything else. We can tell people to be peaceful, but that doesn't make them so. When you live among people who live peacefully, somebody was here recently and said, I didn't meet one unkind person. That's a statement in this world where there's so much unkindness. I remember in New York City, my father asked an official at the subway station whether this subway went someplace or that he wanted to go. The man said, "You can read, can't you?" This rudeness is endemic in so many people. In New York, it's amazing. Preeta asked me to come out to her house in Stroudsburg and talk to a group of people. And Stroudsburg is very near New York, has much of that influence. And she'd asked me to sing a song for the people, the guests. So I sang a song, and people stared at the floor and at the sky, and I thought, well, if they don't like it, I don't want to impose this music on it. Why inflict it? And so I thought, out of politeness to Preeta, I would sing one more song, and then I said, well, shall we go to the buffet table? And there was a stampede. So I thought, fine. The main person in this group, sort of, you can't call him a ringleader, but anyway, he was the main person. I drove with him the next day in the car, and just out of curiosity, I asked him, I didn't care whether he liked it or not, but the response was so unusually not hostile, just totally indifferent. And I said, how did you like my music? Oh, fine, I guess. In fact, I have a cassette of it that I play every day when I go to work. He loved it, and he couldn't say so. This is a strange mentality, but it's so much a part of modern culture, too. Worse in New York by far, but we find it everywhere. And it's so wonderful to have a community of people where even the children smile at you welcomingly. There's a feeling of kindness and love and cooperation. This is how people need to be in this world. The main problem, Master talked again and again, in church, in public talks, everywhere. That same talk that he gave in that Beverly Hills party, but then he gave it much more forcefully about the terrible depression that is coming. We're on the eve of it now, I feel. He said that it would be much worse than the 1930s. When I was in Los Angeles, I was told that the grocery stores were pretty much empty by the middle of the afternoon. Just think what will people do when the trucks can't even come into the city, when hordes of people will stop them from coming in because they want food. The people in the inner cities will starve. We're facing a very serious problem in our age. The result of serious depression very likely is war. And if there's a war, I've often said this, where do you think they'll drop the atom bombs? On Mount Shasta or on Los Angeles? We have to understand, but when I see Narayan and Dharma Devi, who live right in Los Angeles, I also remember A wonderful story. Master said, if you love God, you will be protected. Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the two cities on which the first atom bombs were dropped. There were two religious communities in those towns, in those cities, that were not touched by the atom bomb. They were quite close to the epicenter, but they were untouched. So remember that. The most important protection, having communities is a protection. However, remember this. After the First World War, there was somebody who decided there would be a Second World War, and he didn't want to be around when it happened. And he scoured the globe for the safest possible place to get land. And finally, he found the perfect land, and in 1938, he bought it and settled down on the island of Guam. So that was the center of the World War II Pacific Theater. So remember, God will be your protection. God will help you under all circumstances, and even if you have to fly a kite to the other world, you'll still be protected, because wherever God is, wherever you are with God, you are with bliss. You are with heavenly beings and with people from Ananda. I can't imagine anybody from Ananda not being happy after death, because you've lived a happy life in this life. So what we are doing in our communities is a very important thing. It's not just for our salvation, and I think that we will fail the moment we start thinking first of us and ourselves. We need to help other people, and the message we need to spread, apart from yoga, Kriya Yoga, loving God, meditation, and so on, but very, very important, spread this message of community. Try to inspire people to get land outside the cities with a few friends. And if they say that we tried it and we failed, then I say, okay, come to Ananda, stay here and learn how to get along with people. Learn how the leader of the community, I had to go yesterday to go through 2 movie scripts. One was on Cities of Light about Ananda, and the other was on my life by a director in England, John Irwin. And another one that I didn't go over yesterday was the movie that we're making on Master's life. In fact, here I am, 86, and in the last 2 years I've written 4 movies and 5 novels, 5 books. And but I tell you, in this book, Shivani's doing great work. She's got almost all the money organized for it. We hope to have it out next spring on the Cities of Light. And it mentioned in this movie something about the jungle gym at Ananda. I had to write the question, do we have a jungle gym? Here I'm the leader of this community, and I don't even know what's going on in my own community. But that is one secret of being a good leader. Don't do it all yourself. So many communities have failed because the leaders tried to do everything. I've just delegated responsibility. There's enough on my plate, even without running everything. And we work so well together. Somebody in Los Angeles, I hope you all got to see it, the question and answer period at the Beverly Hills. It was a very good evening. And somebody asked the question, well, how do leaders in the community keep from being egotistical? And I said that they do it by serving. I never will appoint anybody a leader who likes to lead. All the people that I have appointed leaders are people who would just as soon shuffle off the stage. But they want to serve. When you give, you don't worry about what's coming to you. I remember I was in Master, the first lecture I ever had to give. You know the story, but I'm going to tell it again. So if you want earplugs, I had never spoken in public before. I was only 22, and I knew that Master was going to speak in San Diego because after 2 months, I had been the one to send out the announcements, and I knew that for 2 months he hadn't spoken there. But after 2 months, I was instructed to say to the newspapers that he would be there, and I was thinking how happy those people will be. Saturday morning, Bernard came to my room and said, "Master wants you to speak in his stead." Well, you know, I was not nervous. And the reason I was not nervous was because I was thinking of those poor people. What a blow this is to them to have little 22-year-old when they could be having Master. But I've never been nervous. And the reason I've never been nervous is I've always thought in terms of what I could give to people, not what I could learn from them. Now, the schools that we have at Ananda are very important for the same reason, that these things that we learn, we have to share with our children, and what we help share with our children are what we learn also. The children in this community are a part of our own learning experience, and as we teach them, so we can teach ourselves. There's a lovely story in my book, The Time Tunnel. If you haven't read that, be sure to read it, especially when it comes out in hardcover, because I've made thousands of changes, and it's really perfect now, but now means August. So, but there's a lovely story about 1,000 years from now when this girl, Jennifer, invites Hansel, who has come from this century to that century, and she invites him to come to her school, and he hears about an example, and he says, "May I offer a suggestion?" And the teacher says yes. So he says, "Is there anybody that would? Let's talk about you and you children right now. Is there any one of you who would like to offer yourselves as an example?" So a little girl stood up, Rebecca, and he says, "Now, Rebecca, what is your favorite dessert?" And she says, "Apfelstrudel." It happens to be a theme in the story because they have Apfelstrudel in the beginning and so on. Even 1,000 years from now, they have Apfelstrudel, okay? And he says, "All right, now, imagine that your mother has made you Apfelstrudel, and you'll take that to school for your lunch, for your dessert. You'll be very happy, won't you?" "Oh, yes." Then he says, "Supposing there's a boy there that you see when you go to lunch, you see him weeping his heart out. I don't know what he's weeping for, but maybe some boy hit him, maybe he was disappointed, whatever. But would you be willing to share your Apfelstrudel with that boy?" "Oh my, I don't think that would be easy. I'm not sure I can say yes." He said, "Now just think of it this way. He's weeping, and if you give him a bit of your Apfelstrudel, you may make a friend. Wouldn't his friendship be more important to you than your Apfelstrudel?" "Well, I don't know, but think of it this way. You eat the Apfelstrudel, it'll be gone. You won't even remember it tomorrow. And you'll have his friendship for many years, maybe for life. Would you be willing?" She said, "Oh my, of course, in that case, yes, I'd be happy to share." And he says, "Would you be happy if just thinking about how very temporary the pleasure of that would be, and how permanent his friendship would be. He might be a lifelong friend. Would you be willing to give all of it to him? And she says, gee, yes, I would. So you see, in these ways, well, forgive me for weeping because I can't help it. I just feel so much bliss in my heart that I'm just a lost cause. Anyway, in this way, we learn from example. We learn from seeing people in the community. It's okay, that's all right. We learn from seeing people in the community, those who think of me first and those who think of helping others. And we see them over many years because they stay here for a long time. And we see those are happiest are always those who give, whereas those who think, what's in it for me, are always unhappy, never have enough, and often end up leaving. And we learn from their example that this is the way to live. We can teach this to children and help them to understand it too. And what we teach ourselves, we teach the children. And what we teach the children, we can learn for ourselves. And to see Nitai here, is Usha here? Okay. But Nitai and Usha especially, but so many of our teachers. Nitai began at the beginning of our schools. He had been a school teacher, and I asked him to teach. And he's been a real human. He's really done wonderful work. And I want to take this opportunity to give him acclaim.
My blessings, Swami.
This community it's wonderful that we have this weekend as an anniversary of the beginning of Ananda and as a thing for education for life, because the two go hand in hand. Education should not be as it is in the schools today. You know, when I was in Teleajan, my mother, I was 5 years old, and she told me some very simple thing. And I looked at her coldly. I said, how can you teach? You're not a teacher, you're just a mother. And so all the mothers in the community sent to England for a teacher, and the teacher came. And I remember we were all in a little schoolhouse, all different grades, all together. But it was a wonderful experience. We loved learning. And I remember coming over on the ship to America. We came every 3 years because my father got a vacation. And I remember a boy on the ship telling me how he hated school. I said, why, how can you hate school? It's so wonderful to learn all these things. The school system is altogether wrong. Its main purpose is geared towards having a job and getting a lot of money. And there's no life, there's no fun in it. But when they try to make it fun, they just make it fun in games. They don't make it a teaching experience. They think that teaching has to be something you've got to drill into their heads. And it's such a wonderful thing to learn if you can relate your learning to life. And so our school system is really an education, not for a job, it's an education for life. It teaches children how to get along with other people. If you can learn how to get along with others, you can get a good job, you can rise in that job. Everything they tell you in business and everything is absolutely wrong. They say a good boss should slam the phone down every now and slam the door and shout every now and then, get people to cower in front of you. That's not the way to win people. Let them know that you're their friend. If you're going to work for somebody, if you have somebody you hate, you're going to work around them as well as you can. If you like him, you'll do your best for him. And if you all are a team, you'll work together. That kind of business will be much more successful. It's almost self-evident. It seems ridiculous to have even to explain it to people. But people seem to have this block in their heads that you have to force yourself on the world. They tell you when you go into business to fight for the top, fight each other like cats and dogs. That's ridiculous. Cooperation, kindness, helping other people. These are the things that will help. And these are the things, our trouble today is basically one thing, greed. What's in it for me? Like that Charlotte's Web movie, the rat is always saying, what's in it for me, Charlotte? You'll never get it that way. You'll get your little bit and you'll be unhappy. And people who have a lot of money will be more unhappy. But if you think in terms of what will help other people too, you'll find, it's a strange thing. I don't accept any salary. I don't accept any royalties from my books or music or anything. And yet I always have what I want, because I give, it's given back to me. And I never have to worry about anything. Because if you're kind to other people, it stands to reason they will be kind to you. And if people feel that I need help, they will help me, as they know I will help them. If we learn to cooperate, if we learn to be kind and generous, it's all in that. And so, in our schools, we teach them how to, get along with people, how to be happy. The secrets of happiness are so simple. You want to be happy? Be happy. People are always thinking, well, tomorrow I'll get happiness. Meanwhile, I've got to work to get it. And so they're sitting in the offices, sweat pouring off their brows, chewing their pencils if they use them, or their fingernails if they're using a computer. And they're not ever going to be happy that way. If you learn to be happy right now, you can be happy with nothing. The man who wrote that song, I Got Plenty of Nothing, I'm sure he had plenty of money himself, was paid a lot for that song. Still, it's a good song. It's a good song because when you don't have, you have to have something. Master said he didn't like Saint Francis's image of Lady Poverty. He said, I prefer Lady Simplicity. All you need is your basic needs. But after that, you don't need a Mercedes-Benz or a Rolls-Royce. You need a car that will get you where you want to go. You do need a car. I had a wonderful story. It's really a golden memory in my life. I felt inspired by Divine Mother to go back to India. And I had enough money from money I'd gotten from classes, and people had given me a certain amount. And I had enough to go there for 2 months and then come back. But I was driving 2 weeks before my departure. I was driving into San Francisco, and my car threw a rod. Is that what cars do? Is it? Okay, thank you. I'm really not quite knowledgeable, but anyway. My car threw a rod, and I realized I had to get rid of this clunker. But I thought, well, if I get rid of a clunker, I still need a car. I live up here in the mountains. I have to have something to get around in. And so I said, I had Jyotish and Devi and other friends with me, and we were in restaurants, and I couldn't go to churches. All the doors were closed. So I couldn't meditate in a restaurant. I tried to talk about it. What can we do? And finally, I said, well, Divine Mother, I can't pray really silently in a proper location, but my common sense tells me I need a car when I come back, so I will get a car, and you're going to have to reimburse me. That's the way I pray to Divine Mother. It has to be, you're going to have to do it. And so Friday evening, I paid down $1,000 on a used car, and I got $700 for the other. So for $1,700, I got a decent used car. That was decent in those days. And this was Friday evening. Monday morning, I got a letter in the mail from somebody I did not even know. It had a check to me personally, not to Ananda, for $1,000. And the letter? The letter said, use this as Divine as Divine Mother wants you to. As Divine Mother wants you to. It was just too beautiful. You know, another time I was in the hospital in India with double pneumonia, and the doctor came into my room. I was hardly conscious, and the doctor did not talk true to form. He said, "Sir, can you help me?" I said, "Well, I'll try." And he said, "Well, I have a son in college in Canada, and I have many expenses. How is it possible to be completely dharmic, completely just in my actions, and still make ends meet?" And I said, "Well, I have found in my life that by being always rigidly true to Dharma, I have always succeeded. And I was not a glowing advertisement for success, lying there in bed, half unconscious." And I saw that he left the room not convinced. The next day I decided to write my course of lessons on how to succeed through right action. And it took me 1.5 years to finish that course. And always after doing a job for Divine Mother, I like to go off on a vacation. I was going to say toot, but that may give the wrong impression. But I like to go off on a vacation and celebrate with her. And so I went to Carmel, forgetting that in August Carmel is very full. And I found that all the hotels were filled. There was one with one room that I couldn't afford to pay. I could barely afford to pay, but I needed money at home. And I wasn't sure whether I could. But finally I decided, well, I've come here to celebrate with Divine Mother, and I'm not going to go to Monterey, where it's cheaper. I'm going to stay here. And Divine Mother, you're just going to have to see that I managed to get home. So I pulled out my wallet to pay him in advance. He said, "No, don't pay me." I said, "No, I'd rather pay you now." He said, "Don't pay me at all." I said, "Why not?" He said, "I don't know, I just like you." The next day, I went to a restaurant, and the proprietor came over and talked with me, and he wouldn't let me pay for my meal. And so I got to go home safely with all my money intact. But in these ways, don't doubt that God will come to you, because he's with you already. Don't doubt that God is interested in you. Mind you, we have prayers and chants like, "Wilt thou come, wilt thou come?" It's all fine and beautiful. But you really don't have to say that. He's there already. He's in your prayer when you're praying. He's in the thought of him when you're thinking. And you can't have a thought without his knowing it. You can't do anything wrong and hope that he didn't see it, because he saw it. People have wondered when I told that story about Master who said to me once, "I know every thought you think." And people have said, didn't that embarrass you? I said, not at all. I wanted him to know my thoughts. I wanted him to know even my mistakes so he could correct them. And so don't try to hide from God. He'll know. but offer everything up to Him. And when you pray to God, pray with God. Pray, Divine Mother, I know you're in my very thought that I'm praying to you with, and help me to love you more. I've written a book which I am not accepting myself as the author because I wanted to go to a Christian audience without the label Swami Kriyananda, which will put off Orthodox Christians. But it's called Cooperating with Grace. Any time you are kind to other people, you are cooperating with that grace, and grace will help you. Anytime you do anything not only for God, but with God, you will see His love, her love, shining through you, acting through you. And these are the lessons that we learn in our schools. I hope we're learning in our schools. And that we learn in our community, and that we try to teach people. And I think that the example of Ananda in the world is going to be a very powerful one. Master said to somebody, I didn't hear him say this, but to some of the monks he said, if Walter had come sooner, we would have reached millions. And he told me many times, you have a great work to do. You are a part of that great work. But that great work doesn't end here. It ends with what you give to other people. I would like all of you to be Kriyanandas in this respect of going out and sharing these wonderful truths, which you can share with people just as you pass them in the street. Master used to say, if you see somebody with a sad face, shoot him with the buckshot of your smiles. When you see a person in the street looking sad, smile at him. It will help him. There was that wonderful experience I had in Paris many years ago. It was on my birthday. And I wanted to celebrate by going to a concert. And as I reached the doors, they were closing the doors, turning about 50 people away. And I said in French, but it's my birthday. And he said, oh, well, in that case, happy birthday. And he welcomed me inside. And he couldn't put me in the crowd, so I had to sit up on the platform behind the altar. And later I was in the metro, the subway, they call it the metro in France. And a woman, an old woman, came to me and said, do you remember me? And I said, well, I can't say that I do. She said, but I was in the audience. Well, there were 700 people in that audience. But she felt this personal tie with me because of the joy that I'd been feeling in the music. And she sat down and asked me questions about her daughter and problems she was having with her daughter and so on. But you'll find that even if you smile, don't even necessarily smile at people. I have seen many times that people passing me in the streets will smile at me. My very presence is helping them. You want to be that way. Feel kindness toward everybody. Be their friend. Think, what can you help? What you can't stop them and say, what's wrong with you? You can't say, well, what can I do to help you? But you can give them a smile and share a little bit of your happiness. You can be more help that way than you know. And people like this will spread this wave of joy throughout the world. It will help the world, and it will help you. Master said, the instrument is blessed by that which flows through it. And the more you help others, the more you will feel helped yourself. This life is a very short life. When you're 15, when you're 5. I remember asking Dad when I would be able to drive. He said, you won't be able to drive until you're 18. I thought, oh my God, that's forever. When 18 comes, it doesn't seem so long. And you think of people of 40 as practically over the edge. There was a girl in high school who thought if I lived to be 40, I think she said 30, I'll commit suicide. But you reach the age of 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. I'm perfectly happy. But you see, life just passes like that. Well, I can't flick my... like that. I can't do that somehow. Anyway, it passes just in the flick of an eye. And you look back, and I remember things that happened to me when I was a child, when I was a young adult, and so on. It was just like yesterday. I'm a bit hard on short memory, but my long memory is very strong. And you'll find that death comes very soon. And it might come in any case. I remember years ago, before I had my heart surgery, the doctor said, "We've tested your heart." He said, "At night it goes down to 30 and you have a murmur. You could easily die any night, just like that." And he said, "You've got to have this surgery." And it made me think, well, any moment you could die. You could cross the street completely confidently and a car could get out of control and knock you over. You don't know when you're going to die. Our karma is varied. But you might die at the age of 5, at 2, at 1. At the age of, more realistically, 40. It doesn't matter. You will go. That's the absolute certainty in this life. You will die someday, and you won't die at all. Do you know that you're as old as God? You'll come and go and come and go and come and go. And it gets to be an endless cycle. And after billions of years, maybe in the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, Master's interpretation of that book, he said it's a great scripture. And it was a blessing for me to be able to edit that book. But there's one there where the meaning of it is that many who come into this world at the beginning of a day of Brahma, billions of years ago, are still wandering in delusion at the end of it. And the Bhagavad Gita says, at the beginning of a day of Brahma, I throw all these souls out again into Maya. And how many days of Brahma have you been wandering? I don't know, but I'll tell you this. Being human gives you a great talent for continuing your delusions. If this girl didn't do it, that may do it. There's a very good joke I heard recently. My wife and I lived very happily for 20 years, and then we met. Another one. My wife is an angel. You're lucky mine is still living. Well, women could say the same things. The fact is that nothing will ever do it for you. Money won't do it, power won't do it, fame won't do it, wife or husband won't do it, children won't do it, nothing will do it. But this world is so varied. God is so skillful in his ability to impose this hypnosis of delusion on us. And it takes a long time. In fact, Norman one time said to Master, "Sir, I don't think I have very good karma." And Master said, "Remember this. It takes very, very, very good karma even to want to know God." And Norman one time had a vision. I don't know was it true vision or not, but he saw himself with Master on Lemuria 80,000 years ago. And I thought, oh my God. And I said to Master, "Have I been your disciple for thousands of years?" He said, "It's been a long time, that's all I'll say." I said, "Does it always take so long?" He said, "Yes. Desires for name and fame take them away again and again." And I suppose he was mentioning my delusions, name and fame. I don't want them now, but they're coming to me, so it must be something I wanted at one time or another. But how many delusions there are. Once you reach the human level, with our intelligence, with our ego, the more intelligent you are, the harder it is until you learn to use your intelligence rightly. I, with good karma and God's grace, learned to use my intelligence rightly. I realized I didn't want God. I thought God, the way they're teaching me in church, is just not interesting to me. He's boring. And so I tried finding him as an astronomer, I tried looking for the right system in politics and some political system that might work. I tried finding him through the arts, and I saw that every single road was a dead end. And I remember I was studying to be a playwright, and I thought, what's the use of it? Shakespeare wrote all these plays, and how many people has he really helped? And I wanted to help people, and I saw that this isn't going to help people. Even if I write the best plays in history, I still won't help that many people. And besides, I thought, I don't know truth. So why should I impose my ignorance on people? And I decided it just no use in being a playwright. And I was desperate. I wanted to know, what can I do? And I thought, everything. Without God, there's nothing. And therefore I had to know, what is God? And because I reasoned correctly, I walked out into the night outside Charleston into the country, and I said to myself, if there is a God, what must he be? And I thought, well, he can't be somebody up there waiting for us to make a mistake so he can clap us into hell. I don't say that he loves us, but he certainly can't hate us. And then I thought, well, what's making me ask all these questions? And I thought, well, it's because I'm conscious. Where has my consciousness come from? It must have come from a source. I can't have had these ideas just from my own brain. I couldn't have been programmed to think these ideas. Therefore, God is consciousness. And if God is consciousness, I am a part of that consciousness, and I've received that consciousness from him. And then my duty and the job of living is to find myself more open to that consciousness, not more closed. When I got drunk, which I sometimes did, I was less aware. When I thought of people and was clear-minded, I was more aware. So if I open myself to God directly, maybe I'll be completely aware. And I came back from that from that walk with the firm conviction that the only goal of life is to find God. And I didn't know anything about the lives of saints. I didn't know anything about all these things that anybody else had ever presumed to seek God. And I thought, am I going crazy? Who in history has ever thought to seek God? And I tried to go back to nature and try to find happiness in nature. And I remember I went up to Indian Lake in upstate New York, and I would see the dewdrop on a leaf and see the rainbow color in it. And I'd say, that's beautiful, but I can't feel it. And I realized I've got to change myself to become even more sensitive to beauty. I can't just be out in nature. Nature's not going to make me anything. Even if I go crazy, I've got to find God. And with that determination, I decided to go to South America, to Brazil, and live in a forest, a jungle there, and not worry about anything, just try to find God. I didn't know how to find him. I didn't know what to do, but I decided that's what I had to do. And first thing I thought was, well, if I am going to be a hermit, the first thing I must do is give up smoking. Whoever heard of a hermit who smokes? And I thought, well, I couldn't go out and buy cigarettes if I have no money. So I decided first thing I had to do, well, okay. I tried, but it was like Mark Twain, who said smoking's the easiest thing in the world to do. Give up. I've done it 1,000 times. So I would give it up in the morning, and then with coffee at lunch, that cigarette used to taste so good, so I'd have it. I'd go back to it again and again. But each time I went back, this is a very important lesson, and one that I think it would be good for our schools to learn also, to teach also. I never said I have failed. I always said I have not yet succeeded. So that every time I failed, it was an affirmation of success. So anytime you sin, never tell yourself you're a sinner. Never say I'm a sinner. Say I've made a mistake, but I am a child of God. That is the way to find freedom. Master said, give God the credit for everything, even your sins. He said God likes that, because then he can help you. But if you try to hide from him, he won't be able to help you. So after a year of this, I remember I was rooming with 4 other young men, and I said to one of them, well, I've given up smoking. We've heard that one before. But I really meant it this time. I went to bed and took that affirmation into my subconscious, and that's a very important thing too. Whatever you want, affirm it, take it into sleep. Let that be the first thought you have when you wake up. But from then on, I never had even a desire for smoking. So remember this. If there's some fault that you have, and most people have a few little ones, whatever fault you have, don't hide from it. Just give it to God and say, I will succeed. Tantra, in this sense, is good. Sex, for example, is a very good example because everybody is drawn to sex in one way or another. Just don't let yourself say, I am enjoying this. Say it's happening, but I'm not involved. Watch yourself. Keep your mind withdrawn, and you will see gradually that finally it seems like the easiest thing in the world to give up. That which seemed absolutely impossible becomes something so natural you wonder how anybody ever got involved in it. It's such a dirty thing. And yet people all are drawn to it. Why? Because of delusion. God puts these delusions in our minds. God tests you through sex. But when you conquer, God blesses you and then fills you with bliss. Just absolutely fills you with bliss. And so know this, that if you say, I have not yet succeeded, no matter what your faults are, you may be nasty to people. Don't say, well, I'm just a nasty person. Say that, no, I will not do this, whatever it be. And you will find that sooner or later, nothing cannot be overcome. Because sooner or later, you've got to become free from this body. There are worlds to gruel through. After you've got out of this one, there's still something else to go through. But when you've finally gotten out of this world, you'll look back on everything that tempted you in this world and say, not for me, not for me. So, remember, you are a child of God, and He loves you much more than you love Him, because He's the source of all love. Pray, help me to love you as you love me, because I am your child, and naughty or good, I am still yours. Well, these are ways. I had the good fortune, however, of not having to go to Brazil, because, you know, when you really want God, God sends you help. Master said He sends you help in the form of books, in the form of teachings, in the form of teachers. I had the good fortune. You know, if I didn't know anything about Indian philosophy. I had been told by somebody in Charleston, you should read the Bhagavad Gita, it rang a bell in my mind, but I didn't know what it was. He told me it was a scripture. I didn't know anything about Hindu teachings. And my father was sent to Egypt to seek oil. He was an oil geologist. Well, the reason I think that it was God ordained was that he actually found where oil would be found. When Esso pulled him out of there and sent him to France, and he went to France and found oil there and got the Legion of Honor and everything. But Mobile went to Egypt and found oil exactly where Dad said that that it would be found. But he wasn't meant to find oil in Egypt. He was meant to go to Egypt to get out of my hair. And the day I put my mother on the ship to join him, I was completely free. I went uptown New York. I went up into Doubleday Duran, as it was called, bookstore, and I found Master's book, and that changed my life. And I took the next bus across the country, and I had two thoughts as I crossed the country. I'm going to find God, and I'm going to help other people to find Him. Because the other great desire of mine was I want to help everybody to find truth. I'd always had this desire, and now I knew I would find a way to teach them how to find God. And when I met Master, I said, I want to be your disciple. And he accepted me that same day. Well, it's been a long story ever since then, 64 years, but the happiest years of my life. And the greatest blessing of my life was when SRF threw me out on my ear. You might not think it. For many years, this was the greatest hurt in my life, that my own nearest and dearest had treated me so harshly. But I realized that it was God who did that to me. They didn't do it. They were acting as His instruments only. But He wanted me out because only on my own could I have done what I have done. But that is my last pain in my life that finally was resolved by understanding that it was all God who did it to me. I don't have any reason to regret what any person did to me. So remember, take everything as coming from God. And these are the things that are very hard to learn if you're working in a job in downtown New York, let's say, or Los Angeles, or anywhere, with people fighting to get your position and snipping and snapping and snarling. You don't have to live with a pack of wolves. Be with people who also want God. Then when you fail, people don't push you down. In this world, if you fall in the mud, people just push you further down. Here at Ananda, people try to lift you up. And when you're having a hard time, people try to help you. They don't try to get even with you. There's so much love in this community. As I was watching the choir up here singing, I just felt like weeping. Because I saw, you're all so dear to me. Well, let me ask, I've talked enough. Let me ask you, have you any questions? Yes. Jyoti, you'd better come up here because I'm stone deaf among my other talk on this side. I'm hard of hearing here than here. Yes, Kalyani.
I was listening to the transmission of your talk recently from Los Angeles.
She was listening recently to the talk from Los Angeles.
The question and answer or my lecture?
The question and answer.
Yes.
And the transmission was very, very difficult. I only got about every fifth section of words.
She was having trouble with the transmission. It was skipping.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And you said these words, but I couldn't hear your reason.
Okay.
You said, there's only one thing that I am deeply disappointed in.
What was it? Tell me. Tell me.
Said she...
Right, don't say it.
Okay. That there was only one thing.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. She couldn't hear the rest. It skipped.
Well, you remember it.
No, I don't.
Okay, I now remember it. My deep disappointment in that audience was that nobody asked me how many angels can dance on the head of a pin. This was a great debate in the scholastic period in the medieval times. And I finally figured out the answer. 5,003.5, but the last angel could only get 1 foot. No, okay, that was my stupid cred. Any more serious questions? Yes. Gross?
Swami, I don't have a question, but I have a comment. And I was really blessed to be invited to live at the ashram in LA. And I live with a few youth who grew up here. And I still have my outside job where I'm not surrounded with Ananda people, so I'm still experiencing the world without Ananda. And I just want to let you know that I can feel and understand and observe the big difference between the youth who have been schooled at Ananda and grew up at Ananda and the youth that I deal with in my other areas.
You know
of
what
life.
she's saying is absolutely true. In fact, Nitai has said, often people ask the question, what about your children if they leave Ananda, when they graduate from Ananda, when they go to school or go to get jobs later? How are they? Aren't they somehow incapacitated for this world? And the very opposite is true. And in national tests, Nitai has told me that many of our students have come in the top 99 percentile. That's the highest you can get. They all get very high grades. And when they go to other schools, they all are leaders in the schools. Parents should not be afraid to send their children here for fear that they will be incapacitated for the world. And in fact, another thing is in the business world, where if you're a kindly person in an office of cats, they will take your advice. They will take your example. You will be able, as the Indian saying is, one moon gives more light than all the stars. One person of light in an office can lift the whole tone of the office. So wherever you are, if you have to work in the world, then work with joy, work with God. He will take care of you. Any other questions? That wasn't a question, but yes.
Swami, a couple of times that when I've heard you speak, you said that Ananda will eventually succumb to Christianity. My question is, do you know of a way we can stop that or slow it down? And is there, at some point, do we need to break away and start over? He said a couple of times as you've spoken, you've said Ananda will eventually succumb to churchianity. Is there a way that we can stop or slow down that process, or are we going to have to just start over again?
No, I felt that I had to put that in, because the end of everything is downhill. You have to have that. But I think that this example will continue to sprout as a living tree. The tree dies, but the sapling grows. And so even if Ananda should fail, and I hope it won't, I hope it will always remain a shining example for the world. But remember, the shining is more important. And wherever we are, the message is more important than the messenger. The people die, institutions die, probably we will die. We will not die as long as we think of other people instead of ourselves. I've often said that our greatest temptation will be financial success. But I think that we will succeed best if we keep, instead of thinking in terms of financial security and success, think in terms of sharing with other people. As long as we give to others, life will give back to us. As long as we are trying to help other people start communities and to help other people in the world, Ananda will flourish. So this can go on for thousands of years, if you will. It depends on you all, your children, everything. But I wanted to be cautious in that because I didn't want to boast and say, we will finally do it. It's not the way of this world. I don't know. But I know that we will be better and remain fresh and living as long as we live in God. Okay? Any other questions? Yes.
Can you tell us what you mean when you're in your writings when you use the words satanic and Satan?
Satan, Master said Satan is a reality. Satan is not a red person with a tail and horns and a cloven foot. Satan is made by God. Satan is that aspect of God which pushes everything into outward manifestation. And he has to have that outward push or this universe wouldn't exist. In fact, there's a story from ancient India that God first created everybody perfect. And so everybody, as soon as they were created, sat down in meditation and merged back into God. So God said, I will have to create delusion to keep this show going. You might ask, why did he even have to create this show? Good question. I think of it this way. God's nature is bliss. And it's the very nature of bliss to want to create. You know, when I wrote the Peace Treaty, that play, and I had to write those villains, I had fun writing their part. It was great fun thinking how villainous they could be and to make sense of being villainous. So God has fun even through the villainy, but we don't enjoy it. Because that is satanic for us, which pushes us wherever we are on this ladder, let's say, wherever we are pushes us downward. Good and God is that which lifts us up. So it's all a question of relativity. If Mahatma Gandhi, as an example, had woken up one morning and said, I'm sick to death of helping people, I want to go out there and become a millionaire, everybody, even millionaires, would have said, this man has fallen. But if a lazy lout were to get up off his bed of ease and say, I'm tired of doing nothing, I want to become a millionaire, even saints would applaud, wouldn't they? And so you see, it's all relative to where you are. For him, it would be good. For a Mahatma Gandhi or a Christ, it would be bad. It would be a fall. You can only fall when you're at a particular point. There's something to fall toward. Satan is that aspect of human nature, and it's not just human nature. It's a part of the divine nature, this creation itself, that tries to pull everything downward into manifestation. Therefore, Satan is any thought that you have that takes you away from the thought of God. Master said, I suffer when you have moods, because then I see that Satan has a hold of you. So your moods, Satan doesn't have to be out there, he's right in you. And you have to raise your thoughts. Satan can take you as far down as you want to go. I was horrified when I read Master's in his Gita interpretations, when I heard him say this, that usually you can fall back to an animal level only for one life. Then you come back to a human level. And sometimes you find animals that are very intelligent. They may well be fallen human beings. But if they fall again and again, they may be thrown further down and have to work their way up. And I asked him, how far can they fall? How far can they fall? He said they can fall to the level of a germ. Think of falling that. Excuse me. Think of falling that low, having to work your way all the way up. But it happens. There are whole galaxies where there are tamasic people, tamasic everything. the vibration of that galaxy is tamasic, lowering. There are whole galaxies where people are more or less rajasic, active. That's this galaxy. There are whole galaxies where people are sattvic, and they can commune with the astral world easily, and they live in spiritual environments and have very happy lives. But those tamasic people in the tamasic universes, Master went so far as to say that the diseases that we have on this world are often those germs being born on this world and being born so they can be punished by medicine and so on. But the thought of people on another galaxy just easily stepping into this galaxy, there's no such thing as time or space. The farthest galaxy in this universe, is as close to you as your own hand, closer. Space doesn't exist. Time doesn't exist. But remember, you can go down as far as you want to, but you can go up as far as you want to. Man is the midpoint. From this point, it's your decision whether you go up or down. Satan is that aspect, and you're like on a fence. If you move this way, Master said, thoughts are universally, not individually rooted. Your own thoughts are not your own. When you move toward the satanic side, he pulls you. And if you have good enough karma, you'll resist it. If you move a little toward God, he will pull you. But God, you have this much free will and only this much free will. You can go toward God or away from God. Use your free will rightly. Because otherwise, well, I've been Master's disciple thousands of years. How long do people want God before they find a guru even? This is a very fantastic play that we're in. And I'd say don't play with it. Get out of it. It's not worth playing the game. Because you'll go on forever. And just one little mistake can make you go on for incarnations. Don't do it. Okay, you had a question.
Yes, I was wondering if you could tell us, what does it mean when someone says he or she is following their highest dharma?
Their highest dharma means that which will take you closer to God. For example, someone may have a real gift as an actor, but if it's going to make him egotistical, then I'd say he's not following his right dharma, because that takes him away from God. So your dharma, in the Bhagavad Gita it says, it is better to fail at your own dharma than to succeed at someone else's dharma. So your dharma is that particular bent which you have, which I don't have, because for each person it's different. But that which you have, go with that, if it will take you upward. You have certain talents. If your talent is to be a cook, then put vibrations of love and joy into your cooking. Why is Mother's cooking always the best? Because she's cooking with love. And I know I've been to restaurants where the food was wonderful, but it made me sick afterwards. So put joy into whatever you do. But don't think in terms of what will make me rich or what will make me famous or what will give me success or anything. Think in terms of what have I got that can be a service to God. Okay? Any other questions? Yes.
Time doesn't exist. Why is they call it called Kala in the Mahabharata and the Bhagavata?
What
Why
do
is Kala so important?
Why is Kala so important in
Time.
What is Kala? I forget.
time?
Time.
If it doesn't exist, why is it so important in the scriptures?
It's so much a part of our lives. We have to get out of time. You know, Master said, if you hit your head in a dream, your dream head will hurt. And so whatever happens in Kala, will happen to you as far as your dreaming goes. So it's not enough to say it's all a dream, doesn't matter. Somebody used to say, well, it doesn't matter if I steal, it's all a dream. Well, you get the results of your stealing in the dream. So wake up from the dream. That's your whole goal in life. Okay? Other questions? Yes. I always like to see your smiling face. Yes.
You have suggested that we go out there and share what we have with others.
Yes, and what you're doing is great.
I was curious, upon somebody's first introduction to Master, what would you hope that the most important thing would be that they take away from that introduction?
Would you help me a little bit?
Upon a person's first introduction to Master, what would you hope they would take away from that first contact?
His love for God. That's the most important thing. There was one person who came to Master with all sorts of intellectual questions. He had a whole list of them. He read the first one. Master said, love God. So he asked his second question, love God. This guy's got problems. So he asked his third question, love God, and he left the room. And believe it or not, that same teacher who has my name in Chicago has been giving that as an example of how even masters have their problems. He didn't understand, and doesn't understand. If he's still living, I don't know. But love of God is the solution to everything. You can't get it through intellect. Well, another question, yes.
So how can one stay connected deeply to God when you're in the thick of an illness or some kind of suffering? In those moments, how can you truly stay connected?
How can one stay connected with God in the midst of illness or other tests? How can you truly stay connected with God in those moments?
Well, I've had quite a bit of tests in my life that way. I've had 3 hip replacements. I only have 2 hips. Surgery for cancer in the stomach, heart surgery, gallbladder surgery, and I don't know what else. And I've had a lot of pain from people. And I have seen that everything is good and you don't really even suffer. And I was recently in the ICU in a hospital in India, and I was near death, and people were despairing of my life, and doctors and nurses would come to me and say, how are you? I'd say, just wonderful. You can be happy in the midst of even physical pain. You can be happy. Yes, this one with SRF, I was not happy over that, but I finally understood everything is a cause for joy. Everything. If you accept it in your soul, the body's suffering will not touch you. And yes, you can feel the pain here, but I remember I had a very interesting dream. Just, God, it's getting late, isn't it? Very interesting dream. Just a few months ago, I was being burned at the stake by enemies of mine. And I thought, well, this pain will only last a little moment. I just won't worry about it. And so I accepted that, and the flames were coming up, and my foes were sitting at a banquet table nearby, laughing and feasting and toasting each other and having a great time. And I just didn't care. And then some friends came and freed me from the flames, and I didn't care. And whether they freed me or didn't free me didn't matter. I said, if I have this pain, it won't be long. When I'm out of the body, it won't exist. So remember, in yourself you can't be touched. And wind cannot dry the soul, water cannot drown it, fire cannot burn it. Nothing can touch the soul. Live more in your soul. Any other? One more question I have time. Yes, go ahead, Mirabai. Nice to see you here, by the way.
Thank you, Swami, for me. I exist because my parents are here. Thank you. I have a question. Do you think that sex is bad?
Do you think that sex is bad?
It's not bad. It's what keeps the world going. If you want to get out of this body and be free from this body, you have to overcome it. You can't overcome it by suppressing it. The Bhagavad Gita says suppression is useless. You push it down, it only gets worse. So try to remove yourself from it by saying, this is not me. You'll find yourself free from it in time. It may take a lifetime, it may take lifetimes, but this is the only way to do it. So don't feel badly. Okay, enough of this. Thank you.